I'm a fan of Pixar, so in this video, I'm gonna rank my personal top 5 favorite Pixar movies of like all time, I guess, until, many more come out. So that's what we're gonna do here. Now, I also wanna hear from you. What are your top 5 favorite Pixar movies? Let me know in the comments. Welcome to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is my ranking of my personal top 5 favorite Disney Pixar movies. I'm actually kind of excited to go through this list and talk about some of my top 5 favorite Pixar films as we get geared up for the release of Cars 3 this weekend. I'm kind of excited to see Cars 3. So, I felt like as I was putting this list together, I went through a couple different versions of this list, and finally the list I landed on is the stuff that has impacted me the most from Pixar. Which means a good portion of this list, just wrenched my flippin' heart out. You go to an animated movie like Disney Pixar, and you expect fun, you expect lightheartedness. Honestly, when I was putting this list together, I was just wondering, am I just punishing myself? Are you punishing yourself, Durbin? Seriously? Okay. So obviously, there's going to be some spoilers ahead for these Pixar movies. Let me throw out there 2 honorable mentions. Honorable mention number 1, A Bug's Life. Fantastic movie. I haven't seen it in a long, long time, but I remember when I saw it, I loved it, and every time I think about it with fondness. I don't know why, I just don't go out and buy it on Blu-ray. I'm gonna write that down, just go buy it on Blu-ray. This is ridiculous. Honorable mention number 2 for me would be the first Cars movie. I recently watched it to do that theological analysis that I did, and I forgot, that I did like the first one. I wasn't a super fan of the second. Not that it's, absolutely terrible, but I don't know, I just didn't really connect with it that much, and I didn't really connect with the Planes movies. And so went back to Cars 1 to do that analysis, and found that I forgot how much I enjoyed that movie. So yeah, so Cars definitely gets an honorable mention from me, especially as we're, getting into Cars 3 here. All right, let's get into this and cry our heart out. I mean, talk about Pixar movies. Number 5 on my top 5 favorite Pixar movies is Toy Story 3, and I was surprised how much I liked this movie. I liked Toy Story 1. I've always liked it. I've never hated it. I thought it was a good movie. Toy Story 2, I don't remember not liking it, but I also don't remember the movie. So when I went to see Toy Story 3, just kind of with this frame of mind, I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't expecting anything negative because it's Pixar. I mean, come on, it's Pixar. So I wasn't expecting anything negative, but I wasn't expecting anything grand. And this movie was just fantastic. I mean, first off, this movie addressed the question I think we've all had since Toy Story 1. What happens when Andy grows up? What happens to the toys when he gets older and he goes to give them away, throw them away? What happens with all your toys when you get older? All my childhood toys, they're gone. I didn't even have the chance to say goodbye. I can't even believe Andy still had them in a box, to be honest with you. But that's probably because I have a mother who doesn't like to have waste laying around the house or crap filling up cupboard space or whatever. I don't know. All I would know is at certain points in my life, certain toys would just be gone. Certain movies would just vanish that she would think that I had outgrown. Like she got rid of my Ninja Turtles 3 VHS. What is that? So, as that stuff is disappearing, I'm watching Toy Story 3, and I'm just like, his mom seriously hasn't gone through this stuff before now and thrown this away for him? Of course, that's just my life experience. Then, of course, we have that incinerator scene. Well, they're all in the incinerator. They're all heading towards the fire. And they all just... They give up, man. They give up, and they just resign themselves to their fate, and they all just get in that circle, and they hold hands, and Woody's climbing his way up, and then he sees them all holding hands, he just stops and freezes, and Buzz holds out his other free hand, and so Woody takes his hand, and it's just... Of course, then, I'm asking these questions of myself, do toys have a soul? When they die, is there a heaven for them? Will they go there? Or are they kind of just like an artificial intelligence without a soul? But even if it is artificial intelligence, it's still intelligence, which means it's self-aware, which means it has to have a soul, right? So if it dies, does the soul leave the body and go to heaven? Is there a toy hell? What happens when the toy dies in oblivion? Is there an eternity? What's going on? And then they're saved by the claw. So saved by an absolutely hysterical moment, but that's Toy Story 3 for me. You have those moments where Buzz is like, you know, they hit the buttons on him and reset him, so he goes crazy again, but he goes crazy in, like, Spanish, and, you know, he's like sexy Buzz doing his little thing. I don't know. So you have that whole funny thing, and you're laughing hysterically. Then you have the incinerator scene, and you're crying hysterically. Then they're saved by the claw, and you're laughing hysterically. And then you have the final scene where Andy gives up his toys to that little girl.
Now, Woody, he's been my pal for as long as I can remember. He's brave, like a cowboy should be, and kind and smart.
Dang it! Alright, that's Toy Story 3. I can't talk anymore. It's just one of those movies that just... Oh my gosh, I did not expect Toy Story to evoke emotion in me. My number 4 is Up. When you watch the trailers for Up, it looks hysterical, and indeed the movie is hysterical. I mean, you have those great moments where you have the kid, he's in Boy Scouts, he's trying to earn his badges, he wants to help Carl, you know, cross the street, carrying his groceries, I don't know, any one of those things to be a help and earn his next badge. He also doesn't have a father, so he needs a father figure in his life, so he comes and meets Carl, this grumpy old man who shut himself in his house and tied about 1,000 balloons to it so that it would, you know, fly away, and of course, the kid is on the front porch and drops the GPS so that they can find their way anywhere. And he's trying to go to Peru, which is his and his wife Ellie's dream, which is to go to Peru. But when I go to the theater to see this movie, just the opening scene, that montage where you watch Carl as a kid meet Ellie as a kid, you watch them grow up together. And then in that same montage, you see their happiness complete as they get married. You see them find the house that he ties all the balloons to, and it's a fixer-upper. I mean, they're spending the day they get married. You see them. He's in his tuxedo, she's in her wedding dress, but they're still sawing away and fixing up this house. And you go through this montage of them fixing a house, and they're trying to do a picnic on a hill, and he can't climb the hill because he's a guy and he's out of shape and he can't get up there. She's excited, so she runs up the hill. All this just absolute happiness. They see shapes in the clouds. They see babies in the cloud. Let's have a baby. All of this without lines, mind you. Then all of a sudden, there they are in the doctor's office, and they can't have kids. And that's the first blow we get in this movie. And it's an emotional blow. And then he gives her the book of their adventures together and the adventures they're gonna have. And then they have that jar and they start putting money in the jar so they could go to Peru, the picture of the cliffs and all that stuff. And then a flat tire, so they have to get the money out of the jar. And then a tree falls on the house and they have to get the money out of the jar. He breaks his leg and they have to get the money out of the jar. Thing after thing after thing after thing. And then they're old. And when they're old, he sees the picture of Peru, the cliffs that he and his wife dreamed of living on, and they're old. And she's like bent over and they can't do it. So he buys tickets to flippin' Peru. And then they go up the hill. And this time she can't get up the hill because she collapses. Then she's in the hospital and then she's dead. And he bought the tickets to Peru. And then, yeah, you get all the great hilarity in the middle.
I have just met you and I love you. Squirrel!
And then the kid becomes the son Carl never had, and Carl becomes the father this kid never... Pixar, come on, man! So Up is my number 4. It was a fantastic movie. You know how many times I've seen it? One time. You know why? I can't bear to watch it again. For this video, I watched that opening montage again. I can't believe it still elicited an emotional reaction from me. My number 3 movie, finally something that just doesn't reach into your chest, grab your heart, and like, rip it right out and tear it to pieces. Monsters, Inc. Oh my gosh, I just loved this movie. When I first saw it, this movie was just pure fun to me. I remember watching it on the big screen. John Goodman, you got Billy Crystal, you have Steve Buscemi. I mean, come on. The cast in this movie is just fantastic. The humor is just right there. Plus, I really enjoy the whole plot line that basically they travel from their monster dimension to our dimension to scare kids, to capture their screams, to power their city. And of course, the whole plot of this movie is it's not really screams that are the best power source, but it's their laughter that's the best power source. So you have Mike, who, you know, we find out in the prequel had the dream of being a great scarer, but he realized what his role was, and so he's helping Sully, who is the great scarer. And so we have this whole thing where they meet Boo. They bring Boo into the fold. She makes her way through the door. Hilarity ensues, but in the process they find out humans don't have a contamination. This is a lie. So they're not getting sick or diseased because they let humans into their world. This is all a lie created by Monsters, Inc. so that they can control the power source and have it their way and all that stuff. And then they grow attached to Boo, and Boo becomes like a part of their little family. And then the time comes that they have to, you know, send Boo back. And then, you know, the monster people wearing the costumes, they have to take the door and they have to take it to the wood shredder. So Sully has to say goodbye to Boo forever. And then she says Kitty, and she opens her closet door, but, you know, Kitty's gone. Kitty. Thought this was the one happy movie! But then, of course, in the end, you have that last line where you cry for joy and not sadness, because he reopens the door and he comes in and she's like, Kitty! And it's so great. Why did we do a Monsters prequel? What we needed was a Monsters sequel, and we needed it to pick up right at that moment where she says, Kitty! What happens now that they are reconnected with that world? Now that the rules of Monster Inc. has changed, what are parents gonna think when they find out their little toddler daughter has a friendship with a monster in her closet? I mean, you know, these are questions that we should have answered in a Monsters sequel, not prequel. The prequel was okay, though. Like, I don't have anything against the prequel. I enjoyed it. But Monsters, Inc. was definitely the superior movie, and I do wish we had this sequel rather than the prequel. But anyway, Monsters, Inc. lands my number 3 because that just is forever one of my favorite movies. Number 2 on my list, we have Inside Out. Man, from that first trailer.
Signal the husband.
Uh-oh, she's looking at us. What did she say?
What? Oh, sorry, sir. No one was listening.
From that moment, I just realized this movie is going to be hilarious. So then, you know, you go into the girl's head, you see all the different emotions in there, and of course you have Amy Palmer. Oh my gosh, she's hilarious. I love her on Parks and Rec. It was awesome. Phyllis from The Office, my other favorite show, to have Phyllis in there voicing sadness. Perfect casting for this, by the way. Amy Palmer as Joy, Phyllis as sadness. So like that right there is great. And to have Joy and sadness have to take an adventure into the long-term memory and leave their place in the control room in the head to chase the core memories and make sure they can bring them back, because the family moved from Minnesota to San Francisco, and the girl just is so sad, and she misses all of her friends. She misses her house. She misses where she learned to ice skate. She misses her hockey team. She misses everything in this world, and Joy is doing her best to keep her happy, and sadness is like touching these memories, and now the memories that were once joyous are now sad, and it's just so sad. Then we meet Bing Bong. And they fall into, I forget what that pit is, pit of despair, whatever. And Bing Bong begins to disappear and fade away. And they're trying to get on the wagon. They're trying to sing the song that makes the wagon fly so they can fly to the moon. She's trying to fly to the top of the cliff. And it's just not working. So what does Bing Bong do? He just jumps out of the back of the wagon. And then he's down there at the bottom. And he's dying. But he's just so excited that Joy, she made it to the top of the cliff, and Joy's like sad, but Bing Bong is down there just like, yeah, you made it. Take her to the moon for me. And he just... Isn't this a kid's movie? I mean, come on. So Bing Bong dying was probably one of the saddest things ever. Then the runaway girl, as she's running away, sadness gets the idea of running away out of her head. So she goes back to her parents, and they have that heartfelt thing where they fall on the floor and they all just cry together, talking about how they miss Minnesota. And there can be joy and sadness, which is kind of like, I guess, the lesson of this movie. You know, it's like you don't always have one without the other. And as they're sitting there going over those memories and all those things, a new core memory is created of this moment that is both yellow and blue, because it's joy and sadness and Pixar. But then we get to end on the high note of, you know, girl. And of course, then you have this movie that just makes you ask all kinds of fascinating questions like, wait, if joy is the emotion of joy, throughout this whole movie, she's experiencing sadness, she's experiencing anxiety, she's experiencing disgust, she's experiencing all the emotions. So then inside of each emotion, do they have emotions in their heads? And then how deep does that go? Pixar, getting deep, man, getting deep. My number one favorite Pixar movie of all time is The Incredibles. Love The Incredibles. You know what? My love for superhero movies does help with that. The other thing I love about it is still an amazing movie without reaching into my chest and ripping my heart to shreds and making me feel things that I didn't want to feel. So I love The Incredibles on so many levels. I love its humor. I love its cast. I love its story. What a fascinating story, right? Instead of just an origin story of superheroes, we get to know exactly who these heroes are, but at the end of their career. This movie opens with all kinds of crazy things happening right before Mr. Incredible's wedding, and we see him doing all these incredible feats of superheroism, and one of them, he saves a guy committing suicide, and the guy committing suicide, he wanted to die, but he got his neck hurt when Mr. Incredible caught him and things like that, and so then he sues him. And then Mr. Incredible stops a train from derailing, but, he stops it, so people get whiplash. So they sue him, which I actually think is, quite realistic to today, what would happen. I don't think, if Superman existed in real life, I doubt he could save his soul and not have that soul sue him for something. I bet you. And I just thought that was such an interesting plot line for superheroes. Of course, you have Elastigirl, and she's adjusting well to not being able to be a superhero. I still think that seed and desire is in her to want to be a hero, because obviously she's got the talents and gifts. But, you see these things start to manifest where, it's like they want to be heroes. I mean, you have Mr. Incredible's daughter who, never got the chance to be a superhero, but she's depressed. She's got her bangs always covering her eyes. You have their son who is basically the Flash, who is just anxious to finally win races and compete in races. Or, do something incredible with his speed. And then you have Mr. Incredible himself, who is just utterly depressed because... I think he did get a little full of himself towards the end of his superhero career. He might have liked the applause a little too much. But what you see now is when all that is stripped away is the heart of it. He liked saving people. He liked being a hero. That was in him. That was in his blood. It was in his soul. It was just the fire that was inside of him was to get out there and save people. And he's robbed of that working in an insurance office. And we find, no, he hasn't been able to hold jobs all this time, but here he is working in this insurance office, and he's breaking all the rules. Why? Because he's trying to help these people where he can.
Is your customers' inexplicable knowledge of InsureCare's inner workings. They're experts! Experts, Bob! Exploiting every loophole, dodging every obstacle!
He's so desperate to help, that's what happens. And when the enemy comes calling, he answers because he's that anxious to get out there and do something. And to me, all of that was just such an interesting superhero plot. So on a superhero level, it's a fantastic story. On a family level, it's an amazing story of the husband, the dad, searching for a deeper purpose in life, finding that deeper purpose, but really discovering ultimately, the love of his family is the greatest thing that there is. And then, just all this great dynamics and things that are going on top of, come on, Syndrome. That is a great villain. Great villain.
You married Elastigirl? And got busy!
And I cannot wait for an incredible sequel, because I want to know what's going to happen with that baby that seems to be able to do anything and everything. What is that baby's superhero name even going to be? It's incredible! Pun not intended. Anyway, there is my top 5 Pixar list. I'm talking about those things that stand out the most to me. And a lot of these, it's those emotional scenes. And other ones, it's those comedic scenes. And then in the case of The Incredibles, it's the comedic scenes, it's the characters, it's Frozen.
The public is in danger!
My evening's in danger!
You tell me what I saw this woman! We are talking about the greater good!
Greater good? I am your wife! I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get!
Samuel L. Jackson, you are the best. Pixar just has this way of capturing you on all these different levels. And, this is my top 5 favorite list. Other movies that Pixar has done are probably interchangeable in this. So, It's hard. This was kind of a difficult list to put together. Now, if you're up for the challenge of listing your top 5 favorite Pixar movies, and only 5, which means a lot of your other favorites you're going to have to leave out in order to get to your 5 core memory favorites. What are your top 5 favorite Pixar movies? Let me know in the comments. While you're there, hit that subscribe button to become a Durbanian. Next to the subscribe button is that bell. Click that bell. That way you're notified the moment I drop new videos. Like coming up this weekend, we got Cars 3, so you know there's going to be a review of that coming out. Transformers coming out like the next weekend, so I'm going to go back to the first Transformers movie and do a theological analysis of the first Transformers movie. That's going to drop Saturday afternoon. All kinds of great things ahead. So hit that subscribe button. Be on top of that. Check out my other videos I got here. Like and share this one. I'm Durbin. Thank you for checking out Durbania.